Welcome to everyone. People are inside the room and people from abroad. I want to welcome and introduce you in the second version of the capacity building event of euPOLIS. And it is regarding the lessons learned from euPOLIS technologies. Before we start with the presentations, we will show a short animated film created by Mixer and which summarizes all the work done in the project.
Cities are great. They give us easy access to loads of things that enable us to live a good quality of life. For example, healthcare, education, and work opportunities, and plenty of social interactions through various cultural initiatives, recreation and sports, and get-togethers with friends and family. However, urbanization comes at a price, having impact on the environment by increasing flood risk, increasing noise and air pollution, causing habitat and biodiversity loss. There are also social consequences such as social disparities, health inequalities, and increased crime and antisocial behavior. In urban areas, we are exposed to polluted air which can have serious health consequences. For example, at least 230,000 people a year die prematurely to air pollution in Europe. The impacts of heat waves are much worse in urban areas. Due to the heat-retaining properties of building materials, urban areas are warmer compared to nearby rural areas. In 2022, at least 15,000 people died in Europe from hot weather. Furthermore, water that runs off urban areas is often contaminated with pollutants, causing threats to animal and plant species which live in rivers, ponds and lakes, and resulting in increased treatment costs to ensure that water is safe to drink. Finally, urban environment can be noisy, stressful places that take a toll on our mental health. However, integrating nature back into our cities can help to reduce some of these issues and create more healthy and enjoyable environments for us all to live in. For example, people who exercise in the natural environment at least once a week are half as likely to experience poor mental health compared to those that do not. As a result, we need a new way of thinking about city design, one where nature and people are at the center of urban planning. This is exactly the aim of the euPOLIS project. By introducing nature-based solutions and engaging citizens with city design, we will encourage a sense of ownership and make our cities much happier and more inclusive places for all. Nature-based urban solutions use or mimic natural processes to enhance circularity in cities and introduce healthy, blue and green urban spaces that motivate and enable healthy lifestyles of the residents. To explain how NBS work, we use an example of metabolic wastewater in rainwater treatment systems. In euPOLIS, our advanced wastewater treatment system uses aquatic plants and nanofibers to treat wastewater from sewers, which create a aesthetically pleasing environment and produce water and nutrients suitable for irrigation of green spaces. In addition to this, constructed wetlands use vegetation and biota to remove pollutants and reduce runoff sediment. They store and infiltrate rainfall runoff water and reduce the risk of flooding, also decreasing the amount of energy needed for water treatment while also providing habitats for biodiversity. With the selected tree species that are planted by implementing euPOLIS methodology, we provide cleaner and cooler spaces, creating calming and enjoyable places to spend time and therefore helping to improve mental and physical health for residents. Now, imagine these small blue-green spaces, we call them natural hubs, spreading across the city, creating a network of happy, healthy and livable spaces in an inclusive and democratic manner. Each of these hubs would connect our daily routine to nature, be a source of calmness, health, feeling of belonging to, and owing the public space equally and neighborly. combining the knowledge of planners, architects, engineers, doctors, social scientists, biodiversity experts, and cultural and creative talents. This life quality-centered planning approach has created a set of interacting planning criteria, the euPOLIS approach, which helps cities to better balance local environmental conditions with their urban infrastructure and economic, social, and cultural settings. 4 pioneering European cities are already making this euPOLIS approach a reality, along with cities that will follow their experience. In order to prove that the presence of nature has positive effect on the quality of our lives and health, we are employing state-of-the-art information communication technologies. We record change in our demo cities, combining environmental data from our locations with health and well-being data gathered by volunteers using wearable devices to demonstrate the benefits of integrating nature in cities and encouraging others to follow the euPOLIS approach. Get involved yourself. Discover more on how to implement the euPOLIS methodology by getting in touch with our experts and help transform our cities into thriving environments for all.
So, after the very interesting short film, Alexandra Malushev from Mixer has the floor. There is a collaborative presentation. It's about how we educate people for nature-based solutions. It will be done by Alexandra and Anya Ranzelovic from University of Belgrade. She's from FAR. First, we start with Alexandra.
Hello. Let me first introduce myself. My name is Alexandra Malushev on behalf of Mixer organization as part of the euPOLIS team in charge for the communication and dissemination part of the work. Give me just a second, please, to put my presentation on. Okay. Okay. So this part of the presentation is not actually how things should be. Part of it, yes, of course it is. But it is actually a very genuine experience of how we conducted or tried to conduct our first in-person workshop with citizens in Zemun K in the Belgrade demo location. So I will try to share fair share of the experiences that are not really pleasant or successful. So many of the slides and many of the examples are actually our failures in attempt to engage citizens, because we thought this would be the most valuable thing to share with people when trying to engage citizens into the processes of implementing of the MBS. So the difference, or maybe the specificity of our attempts, was that we first created a call for young students of architecture to design Eco-Edu Hub, or the entire pocket park in Zemun K as a demonstration location. So we had first call that was also sent to media, but also to faculty. So this was the first process that we used to get in touch with the broader public outside of the project and outside of the people who deal with MBSs through projects like this. So this is basically the bullet list or the shop list that you have to prepare when trying to conduct such actions. First of all, we had call for volunteers, not for students. We needed young people to help us hand out leaflets, posters on the demo locations, do all the little stuff for us to inform the public, because the public is not informed only through media, social media, and so on. So to divide this digital gap and generation gap, you really have to abandon your desktops and go out there and do the work. And because of the number of the team and so on, we really wanted to engage volunteers, but also to get them to become a part of the project as volunteers and learn through that also. You always have to check what do you need from gadgets, how to engage all your local partners, to be aware who your local partners are, You have to produce a lot of, call them incentives and products for the volunteers so they have sort of a sense of belonging to the project and working for some higher cause. You have to prepare, of course, the press release. I will get into more details about that. You have to try to contact the local stakeholders. I think it's more fair to start calling them citizens because that creates somehow a more intimate bond and relationship to them if you give them faces and names and start treating them as people who live there, because when you're dealing with a demo location and going there, it's their demo location, it's their neighborhood, you're the guest. So basically you need to prepare the list of stakeholders, you have to know who they are, and so on and so on. So we also launched the online questionnaire that we plan to also distribute offline to get more information about who our citizens are, what do they need, how do they perceive their neighborhood, the problems, what would they like to have after the euPOLIS implementation, and all other possible issues and insights that they might have. So this is what our stakeholders list look like. Our demo location being the river bank, and it has a lot of sports clubs. So this is just one chunk of it. So just by accident, all of these are sports club in the vicinity of the demo location, but you will have many more and many different stakeholder groups. And this is actually the representation or the moment where I had my first really big failure in trying to engage people. Of course, when you reach out to stakeholders and to citizens, whether they're individuals or organizations, you try to establish a permanent connection and relationship. Relationship meaning that you really have to listen to what they have to say, what do they need, what do they want. And to do that, you need time. What happened to me, there is an elementary school in the vicinity of the location, and it is a really progressive elementary school. Everyone wants to put their child there because the professors are really engaged. They're taking kids all over the place, teaching them a bit outside of the box. So I got the phone number of the principal and I called him, and he was really enthusiastic, and he said, oh, we have this geography teacher, he's great, he is willing to participate. He also needs contacts, he really wants to engage in things like that. So I was really happy. I sent him an email with all the details, counting that, okay, long-hanging fruit, this is mine, I got this, we will have this school, which was probably the most important contact at that point. It was Thursday. The principal forwarded my mail to the teacher on Friday, and the workshop took place on Saturday. The teacher showed up, long face, really pissed for having to be there. He showed up only to show up so that we could tell his principal that he was there. He spent like 10 or 15 minutes there and went. No connection was established, no permanent partnership was established, and we never heard from him again. So first failure. If I have given myself more time to put sort of a foot in the door, to spend more time with them, to go to school, to talk to them, to explain better what the euPOLIS is all about, what is it, and what are the ways that they could plug in their programs into the euPOLIS and into the euPOLIS workshop, that might have been different for the entire workshop and for me. So as I mentioned before, we also had the offline questionnaire that followed the online version, because a lot of people that would show up at the workshop were older people, not having smartphones, not knowing how to fill out the online questionnaire. And we also had to prepare a lot of materials, and this is something that you have to think of in advance. So all the graphic materials that explain the demo location, why did we choose that demo location, why is it important, how the implementation is going to affect, whether they're going to lose something, or some of the features that they may love about this location. So you have to be really specific, and you have to be prepared to answer all their questions, and most importantly, someone already asked me that, whether we go honest with the stakeholders and their questions. Yes, from the beginning, even the downsides of the current process and the possible downsides of the project, they have to be aware from the beginning, to be ready to, settle, to see if they're ready to settle for what you're offering compared to what they might lose. Sometimes Alexandra yesterday explained that the processes may not always be simple and really gliding through everything. So yes, you always have to be honest, and you always have to say everything that's going on and that you're planning to do, and never overpromise, never promise something that you cannot deliver in these processes. And when we had all that prepared, we were ready to have an in-person workshop, and it was an open area workshop, so we set up some sitting tables and chairs, so whoever registered to come, okay, they showed up, but a lot of people who were just passing by, they were curious and they would just join to ask what was going on. So you don't have the laboratory circumstances when you're doing such things, so anyone could show up with any kind of different intentions and current emotional status, and this is actually can be the hard part. So you really have to know your team, and you know whom you send to what kind of different group to talk to. So we use this opportunity to provide a light chat and providing information about the euPOLIS. We had our experts helping citizens fill out the survey, but also providing them with the knowledge about the demo location, about our intentions, about very specific interventions, MBS interventions, what kind of trees do we plan to plant there, why, what are the characteristics of the plants that we're planning to have there. And it is always good to have some sort of activation on spot. We were thinking about having this Kid Hub association that organizes like what do you call them? All sorts of workshops for children, educating them on environmental issues. So they're really equipped and experienced with working with children. So we had this table with crayons and papers, and as any child would pass by, they would like to join. So when the child joins, the parents have to spend a bit more time there. So you really use the time to grab them and tell them what you have to tell them. And of course, when the workshop was done, we had to do all the analysis about it. We had to go through all the surveys online and offline and see what we got. And the most interesting results and the most interesting conclusions we turned into social media and media posters to communicate better what we have come up with. And of course, we started the digital campaign with it because you have to keep your citizens and your stakeholders in loop in all times, because at any time anyone new could join and get interested. And also, when you ask questions, so many questions, if you don't provide the feedback, citizens feel roasted and they just pull back. They do not want to participate anymore. And this was basically the preparation for the second workshop that we used also, because we had the student competition and now we had the results from the first workshop. The second workshop was online, and it was the time when we actually presented the first design, the selected designs from students, and so on. And this is what it looks like, the process. You have to imagine yourself as a sort of a midwife. So left column presents the communication with the city. This is the tendering processes, the construction works and all that you have to submit and deliver to city in order to get all the permits that you need. And on the right side, actually, you see the processes with citizens that you are constantly trying to plug into the communication process with the city. And this is what it actually looked like. Believe it or not, your story and your talk with the citizen does not begin with the Big Bang. You do not start your implementation and nature-based solution stories with pyramids. When preparing a press release, what is the most important? You have to go for the head. So first 3 sentences in preparing a press release have to say everything. Most of the time, when you send a press release to the media office, they do not have time for you. They do not know anything about what you're saying. And if they're nice enough to you, they will give you a really small space to publish anything, and they will just, we call it cutting with an axe. They will just cut off anything that's too much for the space that they have dedicated to you. So if you don't have the major information in the first 3 lines, you don't have anything. Nothing comprehensible will will be published. So in order to make your press release useful to media, you have to make it really short and really simple to understand. Again, no sciencey language. You have to really go down and put it down and really speak the normal human language with that. I got a lot of questions on how to reach out to media, because many people don't have any contacts with media and do not know how to reach out to them, and there are many ways. If you go to any online presentation of almost any official media, you can get contacts from the impressum, from the contact pages, so you can try that also. You can reach out to PR agencies from your niche that cover similar topics, and you can actually buy media lists that are updated and that they're valid because they live of that, they live by selling media contacts. And when you establish one good contact, that's a really good start to start doing it and actually maintain the relationship with media. And this is actually in detail how do you prepare your press release. So as I already said, in the first line or first 3 lines, you have to answer the question, who is doing, what is doing, when they are doing it, how, why, and what's the next step. So it's really, can be challenging, but with practice it can be done really to put it in 1 or 2 sentences. After that, you can give more information that are interesting, that are engaging, but less important. And as you go down, as you progress with writing, everything that goes down is less important, maybe really interesting, but not really useful for. So this is my second failure. This is our press release that we released and sent out to media when we were inviting people to the first workshop. As you can see, the highlighted part is actually the answer to the question, who is doing, what is doing, when they are doing that. But since we have a lot of midwives in the project that proofread your press release, I wasn't allowed to put this information first. So I used the opportunity to at least highlight it, because this was the most important part in the press release. We also prepared a lot of visual materials, and this is something you have to bear in mind when contacting media. You always have to have pictures. Whether it's the visual like this one, but it's always good to have the actual picture of the demo location and whatever the topic of your press release is. So only the text is not enough. And also, please never send a press release in PDF. Never. They will never publish anything. It's just a simple Word document. Of course, why the stories matter, because if you go out there and you speak to high schoolers or students from another fields or grannies and grandpas, and you start telling them that this is the nature-based urban methodology solutions with all the big words and heavy words, you will lose them in like 5 seconds. They will not listen. You also, if you provide them with a lot of data in this project, okay, we like data because it's useful to us, but if you hit them with numbers and big words, it doesn't mean anything to them. But if you explain them that, okay, you like this park, you like this walkway, but do you know that the sun in July and August is so hard that you can't actually walk 300 meters to your favorite club where you meet with your people, and that actually the trees that are planted there are not good for you, that they cause allergies and so on and so on. They will get emotionally attached to what you are saying, and you will get their interest, and they will, of course, because they're spending time there already, they will like to engage even deeper with the project and what you are doing. Of course, this is just an extension of the previous explanation, that you can't just show up and expect people to like you and to engage with you. You have to earn their interest, and you have to create a mental picture in their minds of what you're trying to achieve with a project. So to have an emotional response to what you're saying, it's a bit of a process, but with a little social skills, it's not that hard. We're always counting on that, of course. And whether you like it or not, it's a selling process. Even though you're not getting money for the product that you're selling, it's a selling process, because you're actually buying their attention, you're buying their trust, you're buying their further involvement with your with your project, and as in any sale process, you have to deliver in the end. And this is more about the communication tools that we were developing through the process. Of course, one of the additional ways to get in touch with the media is to first publish an ad, because when you pay something to them, you have their attention. So of course it costs money, but it's not something that's not feasible. We also created a lot of online materials for the Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, even the social media that we're not running for the euPOLIS itself, but Instagram, TikTok, and so on and so on. And all of the partners were asked to participate and to share content so that we could reach the widest audience possible that could get interested into the project. Here you can see posters, and we also distributed the online survey as well as the offline. So these are all the materials that you have to think in advance. This was the survey, what it looked like. The shirts and the call to actions for volunteers that I mentioned in the beginning. So this is all production. It doesn't fall from the sky. You have to think of all of this in advance and prepare, and you have to think of the expenses and who does what and who pays for what. So this is all the process. It doesn't just show up. We also had posters to involve citizens from the neighborhood that we posted the posters in their hallways of their buildings, local environment stores, anywhere that we knew that they would pass by and visit, basically. And this is actually what the workshop looked like. You have to produce a lot of material, a lot of in-paper material, which is waste. So we try to combine things also to have branded spot where we had the workshop, but also to make it a bit didactic. So we had this tree atlas explaining what trees are good for what disease, for what circumstances, why, and how are we planting certain plants. Also, the posters describing the demo location itself, what implementation and what changes do we expect to have during the project. And these pictures actually explain what I told earlier. You always have to have some sort of incentive or an activation for different generation and interest groups. This is the workshop with kids that really attracted the adults and gave us an opportunity to talk to them. These are our experts talking to the citizen, explaining the things about euPOLIS and the demo location. So they're all neighbors just passing by. And as I mentioned before, all of these have to be prepared in advance. So you really have to know your team, and you have to divide the roles and be certain from the beginning who is doing what. This may seem like a shopping chart, but it really is basically, because you have to prepare all this. You need to know the amounts of what you need to know the costs in advance, and to divide all these among the partners that are participating in the process. And believe me, all of these are important, because when you're spending the whole day there, you don't have an opportunity to do something like ad hoc and prepare. So you have to be prepared to feed people. You have to be prepared to give them, I don't know, pens and papers, to have posters to inform them that something is happening and at the place, and so on and so on. And all these things cost money. So these are actually the products that we made during the process, and each partner was in charge of some part of it, and that would be me. Any questions are welcome.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think it should be better to finalize with the presentations and then to have some questions or discussion. So the next presentation is it's the second part of that topic, and will be given by Anya from distance. Anya, are you with us?
Hi, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, very well.
Okay. Can you see my presentation?
Not now. Yeah. So, floor is yours.
Thank you, Vasilis. So good day, everyone. Let me just, maybe I stop the video just to be sure that I have a good internet connection. Let me first introduce myself. So I'm Anja Aranđelović from the University of Belgrade. I'm a civil engineer, and I will be giving a presentation on, again, how to get our cities healthy and what is the purpose or the use of the participatory processes in design and monitoring of nature-based solutions. This was a presentation prepared by both me and my colleague who is a medical doctor, Maja Stosic, and just for practicality, I will be giving the whole talk, but she's here for all the discussions, all the questions. Okay, I guess the innovation of euPOLIS is, if we analyze it from a methodological point of view, we can summarize it into two groups. The first are the guidelines to participatory processes, which include setting the role of the euPOLIS project and partners in the city, then defining the stakeholder groups, designing the process, implementing everything. And the second group would be related to the holistic approach to urban planning and impact assessment, on which I will give more details later. Sorry, can I keep my video off? I see that the host is asking me to start the video, but I believe that it will be better if I stay off. Okay?
Yeah, no.
So the euPOLIS can be seen as a mediating platform between the citizens, the city, and various experts, which, among others, enhance urban planning to deploy natural systems that simultaneously enhance public health and well-being and create resilient urban ecosystems at lower life cycle costs. Now, at the same time, it is including the most sensitive groups, as can be seen through the gender and age-sensitive social lens, and as Alexandra already mentioned. Now, the participative process is crucial in ensuring that implemented nature-based solutions will first fulfill the various needs the stakeholders might have, but also to achieve a much greater innovation than just the technical one. And this is me speaking as a civil engineer. What I mean with the technical one is the managing water, increasing biodiversity, increasing resilience, and so on. The participative process actually can stimulate place attachment, place ownership, community engagement, strengthen community ties, increase the trust in the decision-making process, and so on. Participative process can also find different synergies that can exist between the solutions, the open space, the community, and so on, and bring some additional improvements in terms of economy, in terms of cultural cohesion, and so on. Now, to achieve all that, the participatory process needs to include providing first the information to the people so that they know that they have the opportunity to get involved. And this can be done, as you've seen previously, through various online and offline communication channels, social media, word of mouth, posters, and so on. Then there needs to be a place or space to actually conduct consultations with stakeholders. And this is the best if it is live in designated workshop, but from my unfortunate online participation, you can also see that it can be done with online workshops or platforms, though there are some limitations. Actually, in the beginning of the project, we had no alternatives because we had the COVID. And because of this, we also, as one of the tasks of the project, we actually have explored the pros and the cons of different digital platforms that exist, which systems they use, what type of licenses they use, and so on, and decided on suggesting a console to frontrunner cities for any type of online consultations with citizens, or generally to allow users to a channel to provide unstructured feedback. Of course, this is not the only one. This is just our good experience. Now, the advantages of participation are many. There are limitless users, local language support. There is no need for any type of installation of any applications, but a major drawback, as with many other digital tools, is the discrimination of the digitally challenged parts of the community. Once we have the consultation, there also needs to be a tool which provides co-decision support. And finally, to get the full ownership of the process by the stakeholders. And the stakeholders are not just the people, it's also the experts and everyone who is involved in the process. It is to involve them in the monitoring process so that they can actually, feel, to see or touch what they have created. And our whole integrated monitoring system is actually dedicated to this. Now, the design of the participatory process requires identification of target groups. And again, I mentioned these are not just, it is not just the general audience. This is also many experts, many public companies, and anyone who has any type of use of the space. And finding appropriate communication tools to interact in all types of processes. And we have processes which are the co-planning, where the partners, for example, in the euPOLIS project, the experts, decision makers, and diverse stakeholders identify which are the needs on the site. They set goals and propose potential interventions. And this is followed by co-creation in selecting and designing the actual intervention, and followed by co-assessment, where multiple stakeholders participate in both providing the actual data, such as filling the questionnaires or using the wearables and online platforms, but also in designing the actual assessment methods. Now, collecting the data with people can be divided into several categories. First, there are the surveys, both online and offline. Offline surveys can be either on papers or on tablets or some info kiosks, but definitely on site. And they are used to gather data from the people who usually are not for some reason cannot do it by themselves via online platforms. Other type of sources of data is the use of wearables. And for this, there is a designated procedure specifying the role of the city in the distribution, the technical partners in providing their side of technical support, and so on. So this is something, I'm just going briefly through this, so not too many details. It's a procedure that needs to be planned with both the city and the technical support. Another interesting participation tool is a video game. Here I'm presenting you the euPOLIS video game, which was developed and that has a digital twin of all our frontrunner demo sites, where a player can select a scenario that they wish to explore. And in the scenario, they can introduce different types of interventions and see what would be the results of these interventions, example, in terms of their user comfort. There was a very nice workshop organized with students from the Ralio school in Piraeus who enjoyed their time in changing their schoolyard with different types of interventions. And I guess you can anticipate the extent of possibilities for education, awareness raising, engagement in planning, design, and so on, using this type of tools. Of course, the game at this point has its limits, and we expect that the real data collected on site, together with simulation tools, will substantially improve the capabilities of the virtual game. Again, the main drawback is it's hard for this to be used by elderly or digitally challenged people. As far as risks go, we're probably most concerned of how to engage diverse parts of the community, as we had some challenges in the beginning, especially first with the COVID, and then we had this certain inertia in bringing all to live mode when the pandemic ended. Now it is important how to keep this now increasing engagement that we are experiencing in the project until the end. And in general, how, okay, it's easy to make a workshop, but how to keep people, entertained and engaged in the whole process. There is also a very big concern, this is a particularity of our project, on the collection of the data with wearables, because people are reluctant on being watched, and especially in some demo sites where the trust in the local authority is low, since the local authority is the one who is handling the data. Having the wearables distributed by the city actually is a drawback for many potential users. Here I can give you an example of Gladsaxe, but also other sites. I can mention Belgrade. We are trying to use more supporting partners, so research partners or any other who is not the local authority, because for some reason we realize that people have more trust in these independent people. Now, to be honest, I may have made this presentation a bit upside down, and I went into the core of the participatory process, but without first mentioning what are the challenges we have in the cities, how we try to overcome them with nature-based solutions, and in the end, how do we monitor and why it is important to have people in this. So, and there was a very nice euPOLIS video in the beginning, so bear with me a few more minutes just to take out key stuff. So, as you know, we are experiencing increased urbanization, and in 25 years from now, it is estimated that up to 70% of the entire world population will be living in cities. There are increased pressures on the city limits to provide a good ecosystem for living, and challenges that we have are increasing in number and intensity. We have frequent floods, bad air quality, bad water quality, just to mention a few of the issues that citizens have to live with, and that professionals from different fields are trying to address. Now, we try to fit all the people in limited city property, and in providing them with the means of transportation, the streets, the payment for walking, we are substantially influencing both the hydrological cycle, that is the way the water goes around the city, as we are influencing the local microclimate, and in the end, completely ruining the nature. Many evidence exists, and we can testify, you, me, that there is the presence of the heat island effects, where in the dense parts of the city, due to increased man-made materials, low evaporation, low airflow or obstructed airflow, the local temperature increases for a few degrees and human comfort suffers. Due to this, there is an increased number of people who suffer, increased number of deaths for very young and very old can be related to these effects. And this urban heat island is completely connected with the bad air quality. So we have a full package. It's warm and it's dusty. Now, there are many different approaches on how to address these challenges, to source control of pollution, building cities that are with materials permeable to sun radiation, permeable to water, and so on. And for this, there is a large number of systems that are considered as nature-based. These are green roofs, green walls, swales, biofiltration systems, multifunctional pocket parks, with which we can increase the greenery, mitigate flooding, improve water and air quality, increase biodiversity in city and its relation to health, decrease the noise, provide more places for recreation, increase social interactions, and even we can boost up the farming in cities. Now, since the space is limited in the cities and pricey, the systems built in cities have to be compact and need to be multifunctional. And the urban nature-based systems need to provide at least decreased pressure on conventional infrastructure, for example, to collect stormwater, but also to provide some additional quality, cleaning the air, treating the water, so on. Because they are using the space, they have to compete with more lucrative uses, and they will win if they can establish multifunctionality and increase of property prices in surrounding areas, if they make themselves enough valuable. What is the effect on health? Well, surprise. Even when nature-based systems are not planned to have any effects on the health, they actually can substantially contribute to improving the quality of life by providing space for increased physical activity, and with it decreased risks for cardiovascular or respiratory diseases, improving metabolic processes, sleep quality, relieving stress, and so on. But also, they contribute in the well-being by increasing the social cohesion, attachment to the place, trust in the community, in the authority, and so on. So, people are, after all, social animals, so they enjoy this socialization in public spaces. Now, just briefly, I will mention how we try to quantify, that is, how we try to assess the effects of nature-based systems, and give you a sneak peek into the next presentation, where Sandra will be presenting about the use of the preliminary selection tool here in Łódź. Now, we have selected main indicator categories to be public health, public health and well-being, social, and economic, urban, and environmental. And for each of them, we have designated tools for monitoring, such as surveys, questionnaires, network of sensors for environmental, wearables for health and well-being, remote sensing, and so on. For this, we need people to engage and to provide us with the data, but also to help us in identifying whether we're missing something that is important for the community. This is where we can make some custom measures. So when people select a particular nature-based system for a particular purpose, we can actually help them in determining whether it works. Of course, there are many challenges, just to mention that when working with nature-based systems, time is a very sensitive topic, because to have full effects, we actually need to provide quality maintenance to the system and allow it time to develop. And this is part of the education and awareness raising that needs to happen at all times and at all levels in the project with all the stakeholder groups. Of course, visualization can help substantially. For example, here we use data produced by experts in identifying what are the main concerns on the site, to check it with the actual users on the site, citizens, in some of the workshops, and see whether we have omitted something gravely. When selecting a nature-based system, it is also very good when we know how it will impact a particular concern. For this, and more details to follow, we used expertise, literature, and modeling where possible to try to determine the extent to which a particular nature-based system can help with a concern. In the end, what we want is to have a clear before and after. So this was before, and it was small, and it was not working, and this is after. It is big, it is super. So I guess the take-home message is that the most important thing when working with citizens is building the trust, and one of the ways is in providing education, but also very tangible and visual results. So I guess education and visualization are a way to a greater success. So thank you for your attention. Vasilis?
Anya,
Yes.
we are introducing the next speaker, Mikolai Biezaga. He will correct me. He will discuss about the right of having healthier cities. Mikolai, floor is yours. I think you can take the microphone from there.
Hi. Okay. Hi. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having me here, both in person and allowing me to your computer screens. Oh, something strange happened. Wait. There was something new here. Okay, I hope everyone can see my presentation. So, as Vasilis was trying to say, my name is Mikołaj Biesaga from the Robert Zając Institute for Social Studies from the University of Warsaw. And although there is only my name in this first slide, the work behind this presentation was done by a bunch of different people, among others my great boss. She couldn't really make it here. Anna Domaracka from the Robert Zając Institute for Social Studies, Magda, who is present here with us in Łódź, and some other people who are making the team at the Robert Zając Institute for Social Studies. So let me give you first some outlines of my presentation. I will be trying to go a bit deeper in this social parts Anya and Alexandra were mentioning. But before we go into deeper understanding of this social parts, I will give you a bit of a background from where we are coming. So I will just discuss the civil city framework, which we developed over the course of the project. discuss different issues with stakeholders mapping, the model we are developing to assess the effectiveness of the euPOLIS project implementation of this green and nature-based solutions, a bit discussion about monitoring tools, and as this workshop is called, I will share with you some lessons learned from this project, meaning conclusions. So let me start with the civil city framework. You can probably see that this is a scientific paper, and in this paper, what we were trying to do, we were just trying to discuss social aspects of implementing these nature-based solutions, how to do it in a responsible way, so to encourage participation, and so citizens, because this is what we are all here about, can really benefit from these solutions. So our in general, thinking about nature-based solutions and cities in general starts from Henri Lefebvre, a French architect who in late 60s developed this or coined this phrase, right to the city. And he was defining it. I mean, this slogan probably you heard about it before, and intuitively you can understand what it is. But he defined it as a basket of rights citizens should be able to exercise in urban context. And what is important when we are talking about exercising these different rights, rights to participation, right to occupying the space, right to protest, among others, is that it should be granted to all participants or citizens or city users. So the decision making about shaping the urban environment should consider voices of all citizens and all city users. And starting from this I would say, human-centric approach to urban settings, we can obviously see that before exercising these rights, there is health and well-being, which we can treat as a prerequisite of exercising these different rights in the cities. So the right to a healthy city is a kind of framework that allows to create more democratic and also more livable spaces for all citizens. And when I'm talking about euPOLIS specifically, we learned during the video what it is all about. It's basically we have this scheme here. We are trying to bring back greenery to cities, and the important part and the one which is crucial for this project and which makes this project unique is that we are trying to do it through participatory processes, through co-designing, co-participation, and Anya was summarizing it perfectly. And for me, as a social scientist, this is actually the most important part, because as a social scientist, as a social person, I am into people, whether it sounds good or bad. So this is our biggest interest. And when we are talking about participation and considering voices of different stakeholders or different citizens. In that slide, I am talking about mapping stakeholders, because we need to remember when we are talking about cities, about urban context, we are talking not only about citizens and urban zones users, but also about different stakeholders, public or private. We are talking about minority groups, we are talking about elderly, we are talking about kids, and very often when we are talking about citizens, we are treating them as a whole, that we have a whole group and they are all citizens and we can somehow average them. And that's, I would say, a very bad approach, because they have different needs, and what's more, when we are talking about green infrastructure, which we kind of all know that green infrastructure is beneficial for our health and well-being. We see it on daily life when we are enjoying our time in parks. Usually we like spending time in, and when there is a nice weather, we go outside and spend a lot of time in park. But the important thing is that when we are talking about citizens and stakeholders in general, the effects of green infrastructure, it's not the same for all. And there are different personal characteristics which affect how green infrastructure affects our well-being and health, among others. I think Anya mentioned it, or maybe Alexandra mentioned it already: gender, migration status, age, and so on and so on. So when we are talking about designing green spaces and taking into consideration the voice of different stakeholders, the different citizens or urban space users, we need to consider that their voice is different, their needs are different. When they very often, when we are, for example, talking about minority groups, they might have different needs than the majority. Women definitely have different expectations about green spaces and different the same with kids, elders, and we see it somehow all around us. We discussed it yesterday in Łódź when we were talking about this passage which is going to renovate it, that there are different needs of different citizens. Elderly people, they probably require, they expect more calm atmosphere, while kids, being kids, they make a lot of noise. So there is an issue about the playground, which is set next to the apartment building. Some citizens, some residents are complaining about the noise, while kids, they want to play, right? So we all being kids at some point. So that's very important, that when we are trying to reach out to these different groups to learn about their needs, their voices, to also take different approach to reaching them. Because as Alexandra was saying about these different communication tools, different people, either whether they are from minorities or maybe they are elderly or maybe they are kids, they require different approach. It's completely different approach when we are talking to small kids, which probably they have hard time with expressing what they need. They will probably repeat what their parents say. When we are talking to elders, we can't really base our approach, our communication tools on ICT tools. We need to be very specific. And the main goal here is to include different voices through different tools, communication tools, and hearing them out. Not try to accommodate, like to kind of average everyone. And like, I like to give this example when you're in grocery shopping, when you have the height of the shelves, and if it is on the average height, it's very difficult for the very short person to reach, and for the very tall person it's also difficult because they need to bend their knees, and when you're very tall, as I am, you usually have hard time with bending your knees. So when we are trying to design spaces, we need to accommodate these different needs, but not by averaging, but very often to accommodate the needs of these who are the most vulnerable. And when we are talking about euPOLIS, we kind of recognize that in the NBSs, they add to livability of the space, and therefore they add to the health and well-being. I said before, it's quite obvious because we all kind of experience it. So this is why when we are talking about assessing, and Anya was, I'm looking for the room to see Anya, but I am all the time forgetting she's online. So I just looking for her face, but I can't find her. So Anya was mentioning when we are talking about assessing the successful of our project, we are going to try to use this livability model, which tries to accommodate, like to measure how well the needs of local residents and their expectations were accommodated. So we build this livability model on 3 pillars. One of them, and those pillars are from the new European Bauhaus. It's like a European Union document. It doesn't really matter. The name says it all. The 3 main pillars are sustainability. So we want to make sure that this implementations, this intervention we are making, they are going to last, and they are going to have this effect for longer period of time, especially in terms of environment and tackling the climate goals and climate emergency challenges. On the other hand, when we are designing the spaces, it's not only about their functionality, because we all prefer to stay in nicer than other places. So it's also about its aesthetics. And the third one, and I cannot really emphasize it too much, is inclusion. I've been trying to convey this message that we are really about including in these participatory processes and creating these spaces for all citizens, not only for those who are the most visible, but also for those who are from minority groups or whose political force or is not that visible. So this is very important to reach out to them, to be proactive, and to try to communicate them in the best possible way. So when we are talking about this livability model, we have different categories. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but we have these 7 main categories, and the spaces, we are just evaluating them in these 7 different categories, one of them being walkability, multifunctionality, friendliness, comfort of use, sense of safety, sense of place, and contact with nature. We operationalize them in some either questions or data from cities, so we are able to measure them in all demo locations in which we have in our project. And when we are talking about measuring, we heard in the video, and I think Anya was saying it also, there is a lot of ICT tools in our project, especially for measuring this environmental data and gathering and seeing whether really this implementation, this new spaces, renewed spaces, they have effect on environment and climate. So we have bunch of different ICT tools, different sensors. Moreover, Anya mentioned it, that we have also wearable devices which are going to measure or are measuring right now well-being and health of participants, at least in theory. And I want to delve into this aspect because, as I said, I'm not really an expert in terms of environment. I am more about people. And this is also something we discussed like recently in one of our scientific papers, these challenges which using these ICT tools bring. And there are different challenges I'm not going to talk about, but the one I want to specifically talk about is about acceptance and adoption. We all, I mean, probably we are all aware that we are living in the year 2024. And when we are talking about these different wearables, some of you probably already have them. And if you don't have them, the main reason you don't have them, it's not because you never heard about it, because you simply don't want to have them. And that's the main issue in projects like that, and we see it in the projects like ours, that citizens, urban space users, they are not very inclined to use them when we are handling them. We see it in Gladsaxe. We saw it in Gladsaxe where they made a great effort to encourage people to wear these wearables, and most of them, they return them very fast, or they just didn't take them. And in Piraeus, we saw a similar case where people didn't really want to wear them because of different reasons. And we see it from more global statistics that users, even if they are buying them, these devices themselves, I can share with you my own experience. I bought this kind of wearable a while ago, and it took me just a month or two to stop wearing it because I wasn't really interested in, I mean, I knew myself from my body that I wasn't sleeping well, so I didn't really need any kind of confirmation from my watch, and it was actually stressing me out when it was like constantly nudging me. So we need to be aware that these ICT tools, they might work for some people, but for others, they can have negative effects. They can actually stress them out. And we hear it from different citizens that actually they might cause unfavorable effects on their well-being. And very often, these wearables, they set goals for citizens. You probably heard about your friends who are walking in the middle of the night because the watch told them, oh yeah, you need to make 10,000 steps, and they are on 9,099 and they just need to walk around their block. So sometimes they set very unrealistic goals, which in the end might lead to discouragement and rather than to motivations. And obviously, and we kind of struggled with that in this project also, maybe very often is a bad word, but sometimes these devices, as actually all devices, they are not that well constructed or user-friendly, especially for citizens or users who are not that into technology. And it is very difficult to expect to them just to learn how to use this tool for the sake of the project. So this is why in euPOLIS, and we talked about it in Gladsaxe, for example, but also in Piraeus, and in which it's probably similar case, we are taking this approach, more flexible approach. We kind of plan to use these ICT tools for monitoring citizens' health and well-being, but it turns out that this is very difficult. This is very difficult from technical point of view, but also it is very difficult from the citizens' point of view. So we are trying to gather as much data as possible, but not to treat citizens as data points. So to really try to encourage them, include them in the process, and not only as data points in which they're just providing us data. So we are taking different approaches. Some of them, they are ICT tools. Others, they are more traditional social science tools like questionnaires, focus groups, interviews. So basically talking to citizens, because very often, I mean, I need to admit, especially in social science, we are treating citizens or like people in general as data points and getting like only data from them, and that's all we are about. Okay, we just want to learn how are you, but we are not really interested. It's like asking a question in English, how are you, without really meaning it and not being interested whether someone is good or bad, just for the sake of asking and then creating some charts and a comparison. So this is very important, I would say, also not only for this project, but in general for projects like this. And the last three things I wanted to say, so to emphasize it again, and I know it's a bit theoretical and I mean a bigger overview of like without really great examples what I'm saying, but I can't really stress it enough that inclusion, especially of these groups of which are very often underrepresented, privileged, whose voices are not very often heard, is important, because in the end, we are trying to create a better environment, more livable cities, not only for those who are the most noisy ones, who attend meetings, but for all. And especially when we are thinking in general about public services should kind of consider the needs also of people who not voice them, right? Because they are public, they are just for different groups, especially those who are in minorities. So I can't really stress it enough. The second point I wanted to say, and it is in accordance with what Anya was saying and Alexandra was saying, that this public participation, including people, encouraging them, this is really exhausting. This is exhausting for us when we want to encourage them to take part, but also this is very exhausting for them. When we want to include public in whatever process we are designing, we need to also consider that they are doing it in their free time. We, either city representatives or scientists, we are kind of paid for it. And they are doing it for their, obviously for their own good, because they all want to have a better environment. But also, I mean, imagine going back home after 8 hours of working and like earning your living, and then participating in something which also requires time. It also requires insight. So when we are creating projects like that, this is crucial. And we are struggling. One of the reasons we are struggling with encouraging participants is our obviously incentives. And Alexandra was saying it very often when we are talking about participation. We are saying, okay, the participants or citizens or users are going to do it for their own sake, for their own good, because then we can create better environment for them. But we need to remember that this is hard work, both from our part and also from their. They need to sacrifice their own time to take part and help us out. So we need to remember that this participation, public participation, is long and exhausting process for both sides, and it requires a lot of resources. And the last thing is about these ICT tools, and I'm mostly talking about ICT tools for participants. They are great. They are at some points great. For some groups, they are great, but they should be there to help us to encourage more participants, more public, not to as barriers which are excluding others. Like if we want to encourage or include elderly participants, we cannot really base on internet tools or ICT tools. And also, especially we saw it during pandemic, that these social interactions, these interactions with humans are crucial, and very often we delegate this kind of interactions to ICT tools, which is not the best way to say that mildly. Okay, thank you. That was all.
Thank you very much. So, thank you very much, Mikolai. So the floor now is for Sandra Baki from National Technical University of Athens. She will discuss about some modeling approaches regarding the assessment of a nature-based solution. So be prepared for equations and diagrams, or it's more... Okay, okay. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Okay, it works. Hi, for those that do not know me, I am Sandra Baki. I'm a researcher at the National Technical University of Athens at the Urban Water Management and Hydroinformatics Group. And today I'm going to present to you our urban water metabolism approach to investigate and assess the impacts of nature-based solutions in cities. And I'm going to present to you, show you our first results and insights from its application in the Łódź demonstration site. So just a short introduction on what we are doing. Nature-based solutions, since they offer many different benefits in many different aspects, require different tools to facilitate the impact assessment and to be able to compare different NBS designs and make the best selections. Our work focuses on the urban water management aspect. So for this purpose, we have developed technology for the metabolism-based design and assessment of NBS, so that we are able to model different alternatives, assess the benefits and costs of integrated NBS, identify synergistic opportunities, and we have, for this purpose, we have customized and expanded our tools and technologies. So we have developed for euPOLIS the NBS Urban Water Metabolism Toolbox. It comprises of 3 different elements. At the core of it is UWAT, our urban water metabolism tool, which facilitates metabolism-based design and assessment, which focuses on the quantification of the main urban water fluxes, and it helps us assess in terms of the environmental sustainability of NBS. We have linked this to the euPOLIS indicators that my colleague Anja Rangelovic presented earlier, to the euPOLIS indicators that we have developed especially for euPOLIS to quantify the impacts on many different aspects, including ecosystem services, environmental sustainability, and urban resilience that will help us do scenario comparison. And then lastly, we have developed a dashboard so we can visualize these different model results, indicators, and of course engage stakeholders. This is the urban water metabolism approach that we are adopting. Our main tool, UWAT, is what we call a cloud-to-sea model, which simulates the entire urban water cycle from the water source all the way to the user and then to disposal, water reuse. So this is how we have envisioned UWAT within euPOLIS and for assessing NBS. We have the incoming fluxes related to urban water, which include all the different water flows, wastewater, energy, CO2 emissions. They flow through our system, and we simulate different NBS and urban water interventions, designs, configurations, and combinations. We can test all of this under variable conditions and scenarios, both hydroclimatic and socioeconomic. And then the model results basically simulate the outcoming fluxes out of this system, and from these we can evaluate the different indicators and estimate costs and benefits and reach an optimized design and NBS evaluation. Now for euPOLIS, we've developed many different indicators to assess this. So we have done a very elaborate mapping between UWAT inputs and outputs and the euPOLIS indicators for water, potable water, stormwater runoff, wastewater, water-related energy, and so on. So that we will be able to evaluate our NBSs and reach more optimized designs. So now let's go to our application in Łódź. We just finalized last week our first set of models. So these are still preliminary results. Maybe some things will change in the coming months. So for Łódź and the demo site, we have used a single NBS scenario, planting scenario that was given to us. And then based on that, we have tested different alternative decentralized water sources for covering the irrigation needs of the NBSs. We have coupled this with rainwater harvesting, but we have also investigated grey water recycling, and we have simulated the impact on the urban water cycle. In total, we have created 4 different scenarios, 2 rainwater harvesting scenarios, then coupled with a grey water recycling scenario. We have only tested one type of NBS, which is open parks, and this is simulated with our blue-green component and with different variations for grass, shrubs, and trees. And of course, we have calculated the indicators that I mentioned earlier, and we have done scenario comparison. So this is the Łódź demo site that we visited yesterday. And as we saw yesterday, this can be divided in 2 main areas. Area 1, which includes Park 1, and I'm not going to try to pronounce this name because I won't do it I'm not going to be very successful, which has also in the north various buildings, and in the south the kindergarten. And then we have the second area, I'm not going to pronounce that either, with adjacent buildings and the fire brigade to the south. So we have incorporated these 2 different areas as 2 different sections in our UWOT model. Here you can see the schematization of the kindergarten, where we have the green areas, the 3 different types. We have permeable and impermeable surfaces. We also have domestic water uses, so appliances that are in the kindergarten. All of these signals are aggregated to produce one unified signal for water demand, wastewater, and runoff. And we have, in order to be able to simulate the baseline scenario, we have collected data, hydroclimatic, but also on the different water uses that we have in the kindergarten, the number of users. I think there are around 150 users in total, periods when the kindergarten is open and operates, as well as water consumption data. So this is the schematization of Area 1 with Park 1 and the adjacent buildings. Here we only have the green areas, the impermeable surfaces, and we don't have any domestic uses. And in a similar way, we have done the schematization for Area 2 with the park and the adjacent buildings and all the different surfaces that we got data for. So after calibrating the model, we're using water consumption data. These are some selected model outputs for the baseline scenario for the current situation. So in the first graph to the left, you can see the water demand for the green areas. These are average monthly values for the different sub-areas, Park 1, Park 2, and the kindergarten. And the total water demand to the right in this graph, where we have added also the domestic water consumption from the kindergarten. Now, in terms of the other urban water flows, we have stormwater runoff to the left from the 2 areas, and to the right, we can see the wastewater production and its breakdown between black water and gray water. Black water is the water from toilets, etc. Gray water is from hand basins and, lighter things. So now, after simulating the baseline scenario, then we moved on to the future scenarios. This is the plan that Alexandra showed to us yesterday. We have only one NBS planting scenario, but on top of that, we have added the different local water management interventions that we have assessed with our modeling approach. So here you can see that we have rainwater harvesting from different surfaces. In scenario 1, we are harvesting water from the new building and also from half of the kindergarten roof and directed to a bigger water collection tank. The rest of the roof, the water collected from the rest of the kindergarten roof is directed to a smaller tank in the kindergarten to cover the irrigation needs of the kindergarten. And then in scenario 2, we are also collecting the water from the adjacent roofs of the buildings, but these are not directed to a water collection tank. Instead, they just flow on directly on Park 1. We also have the grey water recycling, which is explored in scenarios 3 and 4. These are added on top of the rainwater harvesting scenarios, and where we recycle the grey water from the hand basins, and this is used, the treated water, for toilet flushing. So in the second area, we only have rainwater harvesting scenarios since we don't have any domestic water uses. Here we, in scenarios 1 and 2, we are collecting water from the roof of the fire brigade, and it goes to a storage tank. And then in scenario 2, we also collect the rainwater, the stormwater runoff from the fire brigade parking lots and sideways, and it's stored to a bigger tank. Here in this second scenario, we have increased the capacity of the tank to see the effects. So for each different scenario, we have created different models and different schematizations. So to include the rainwater harvesting, the tanks, the grey water recycling unit, and the grey water tank. So before doing the final runs of our models, we also carried out a rainwater harvesting analysis to show what is the effect of the water collection tank size with the water autonomy of the green spaces. That means how much potable water they will need and how much they can rely on local water sources. And also we assess the impact on the runoff from the harvesting areas. So here you can see what this type of analysis looks like for the kindergarten. In this area graph, you can see with the blue area is the total water needs of the green areas, and with the brown color, you can see what is potable water demand, and the green is what is actually covered with the rainwater that we have harvested. So we did this type of analysis for many different tank sizes, and we have produced these two curves that you can see in the left graph. Showing how the water autonomy of the different NBS increases with the tank size and how much runoff is reduced from the harvesting areas with the tank size as well. We did this for all areas and for the different scenarios. So I have marked, for example, for a tank of the size of 10 cubic meters, this results in 31% of water autonomy for our green area and 22% decrease of the runoff from the harvested area. Also for Park 2, here in Park 2, since we have a very big rainwater collection area, the reduction is smaller. So after finishing this analysis together also with ERSE, we chose our final tank sizes, and we run our final models. And here you can see in terms of average monthly values how our water demand changes in terms of potable and rainwater. So this is the results for Park 1. And with the green color, you can see the demand that is covered with rainwater, and with blue, the demand that is covered with potable water. Since you see here the two scenarios, scenario 1 and scenario 2. Since in scenario 2, we have increased the rainwater collection area, but we haven't used the tank. So the improvement is very small. It's not as much as we would like to see. We have only used a tank size of 10 cubic meters. In contrast, in area 2, in Park 2, that we have used in the second scenario, a bigger tank to collect the additional water that we are harvesting, we can see that there is a significant decrease in the potable water demand in scenario 2 in comparison to scenario 1. Now, these are the results for the kindergarten. Here we have a different, let's say, form of the graph, because we have water demand throughout all the months and not during the summer months for irrigation, because the school has domestic water consumption. So here we have the grey water in scenarios 3 and 4. You can see that are throughout all the year. We have grey water covering some of the demands, apart from July and August, when we have no grey water production because the school is closed. And during the summer months, with the green color, you can see how much of the water demand is covered with rainwater. And these are the final results for the entire Łódź demo site. So here we can see the difference between scenario 1 and 2 with the rainwater harvesting that further reduces the potable water demand. This is mainly because of the additional rainwater collected in Park 2. As we saw, Park 1 didn't make any difference. And we can also see as well the grey water supplied throughout all the months apart from July and August. So, as mentioned before, we have also calculated the euPOLIS indicators. In this case, we have estimated the indicators you see here related to the NBS water self-sufficiency, indicators related to wastewater, to runoff reduction, stormwater management. We haven't estimated something related to water energy, energy consumption related to water, because we haven't implemented this yet in Łódź. And here you can see some of the outputs in terms of average annual values for the entire site of Łódź, and together with the selected indicators. So since this is already a green area, a green park, there wasn't a big increase in the percentage of green areas. We went from the baseline of 65 to 73%, as expected. And then you can see in the right graph how the water autonomy of the NBSs changes between the different rainwater harvesting scenarios, from around 19% in scenario 1 to around 28% in scenario 2. Now, for all of the water consumption of the site, including the domestic water needs, you can see that in the baseline scenario, everything, of course, is covered with potable water. I forgot to mention that currently the parks are not irrigated at all, so we have uncovered demand there. But I guess this will change with the new situation. There is going to be some irrigation to cover these needs. So, and we see in scenarios 1 and 2, how part of these needs are covered with rainwater harvesting. And then in scenarios 3 and 4, we have the grey water recycling that is used for the domestic water uses and basically for toilet flushing. We see also the indicator of water reuse, how it progressively increases throughout all the scenarios from 0 to almost 31%. And in the right graph, you can see the indicators of water autonomy, water reuse, and potable water savings with these interventions. And now in terms of the rest of the urban water flows, the runoff, we see how the impervious areas have increased a little bit, decreased a little bit, and this has caused a small decrease in the stormwater runoff from the site. And also with the orange columns, you can see the different rainwater, the areas of the rainwater harvesting. And in the graph to the right, you can see the percentages of the stormwater and wastewater treated and managed locally. The baseline, of course, that was 0. And now another way of seeing these indicators are in the form of spider diagrams that sometimes are very useful to be able to identify synergies, trade-offs, and communicate in more of a visual way the different scenarios and their effectiveness. So the areas in yellow and purple show scenario 1 and 2 and how the purple scenario is a little bit better than scenario 1. And then we see with the introduction of the grey water recycling, it's the area that is in grey, how it produces an impact on other aspects as well of the urban water cycle and the sustainability of our configuration and solutions. So some conclusions. I think this analysis has showed us the importance of the rainwater harvesting, but also the tanks, the importance of the rainwater collection tanks on the decrease of the potable water consumption and the environmental sustainability of the interventions. We saw that there was negligible improvement in Park 1 from scenario 1 to scenario 2 because we didn't use any storage tank for the additional rainwater we have collected. We think that these rainwater harvesting analysis curves that we have produced can be used to inform the decisions on the tank sizing. Of course, taking into consideration the special limitations of the demo site. Also, we think that the grey water introduced some significant advantages to cover non-potable water uses, as we saw from the indicator improvement. And further scenarios related to grey water could also be explored, like using treated grey water for irrigation. Other aspects that could be incorporated in our model could be the water-related energy for pumping, rainwater for irrigation, which we haven't included yet in our analysis. And some general conclusions. We think this is an overall useful methodology and tool for urban areas, nature-based solutions, analysis and design. Since we can estimate the impact related to urban water for various different aspects like ecosystem services, environmental sustainability, and urban resilience, that will help us identify synergistic opportunities and trade-offs and reach more integrated solutions. We are currently continuing to explore and develop our methodology and tool. We can simulate other types of nature-based systems. We are currently applying this methodology in the other 3 frontrunner cities of euPOLIS. It's an ongoing work. We have finished the model in Piraeus, in Ralio School. We are currently working on the Belgrade model, and then we will also develop the Gladsax model. We have investigated different types of NBS, like green roofs, green walls, natural treatment systems, and so on. And we would like to further integrate other euPOLIS indicators in this approach. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Sandra. So, last but not least, Alexandra from the municipality of Woods. Sorry, I cannot pronounce your surname. She will give a point of view of a practitioner. So, floor is yours.
It's on. Thank you very much. My name is Aleksandra Trzcińska. I work in the municipality of Łódź office, the Bureau of Revitalization. And I would like you to have a brief, to be honest, lesson about the participatory design in the city. And it's the lesson that we also was given by our citizens and from the years that passed and that we were working with them in many occasions in the public designing our spaces. Where if you want to have a short recipe how to do the participation when you design for the city, investments that will be in it, you need to know that there are mainly four steps that you need to do it right. So the step one, before you start your participatory design. First of all, you need to know what you want to do. So you need time to do this participatory process, at least 2 years before starting the investment, but also our experience shows that even 3 or 4 years before, you need to start thinking about it and to make plan in which part of this process you will encourage your citizens to take to be the part of it. You need to know at first what's the purpose on this investigation, how it will, what will be the result of it in the city. You need to know the scope of it. You need to know how it will be connected in other investments in the city. How it will result in the city structure when it will be ended. You need to know how many parties you should take part in this planning process. Before you invite your residents, you need to make some preparations on your own. It's very good to know what stakeholders should take part in this process. Mostly likely that will be residents, local entrepreneurs, the users of the space, but also stakeholders are the other divisions in your organization that need to be encouraged in this process because, for example, they will be taking part in having opinions about this project. You need to know when you make the investments in the city, you need to bind the many laws that are on the local level, on the national level, or international level, if you are making it right like we in terms of international project with the financing that it's also external, because without it we won't be able to make the project in this scope as we are doing it right now. of course, you need to know which kind of support, this external expert support you will need, because it's most likely that you don't know everything. And it's not a shame not to know everything. It's better to say and to know where you have your lack on knowledge, not to saying that I know when it's just an opposite. So also, what is very important in the whole this process, you need to be honest. Because if someone asks you and you don't know the answer, don't make it up. Say, I don't know, but I will check it and I will come back to you, right? Because it's the knowledge I need to gain at first and share it in the second step. You need to check also at this preparing stage if your project is in common with plans and strategic documents of the city. You need to know who is what's the ownership of these parcels, because there are some occasions that you need to also cooperate with private investors, for example, with private owners who are or will be the closest neighbors of your investment. So it's never like making an island on an ocean, because we are connected in the city with many stakeholders, with many parties. So we need to know this network of all these parties to be sure that in the crucial time of the investment, nothing will happen that will just put your project at risk. Because, for example, you didn't know about some law agreements or strategic documents that needed to be included in your project. It's good to have a timetable, as always. Try to be realistic. So if you have plan A, you need to have B and C's, I suppose, because the plan A is mostly likely to be the most optimistic, B is some more realistic, and C is the one with all the problems that you can imagine making the plan A. Well, experience showed that we are most likely to act in plan B or even C. Check if there have been other participatory process or community research in this area, because maybe you aren't the first one who is willing to do an investment in this spot, in this place. It's also important to know that city lives like a river, but we who work in the city, we change. And also some visions change, some plans change. So it can't be like that you every 5 or 4 years come to the citizens with exact the same idea, which never came into realization. You should also organize meetings with officials, with experts, with colleagues of other branches who could be helpful in the advanced stages of planning, because it's crucial to know and to be aware that you don't have all the knowledge. And you won't have all the knowledge, I think, by the end of the project even. You can't imagine all the variations, all the options that can occur during the project, the process of planning. So you really need to have a strong network of helpers, supporters, experts who will be able to help you just like that, putting a call and saying, I have got a problem, I don't know how to resolve it, I need your help. It's very useful. Of course, it's also good to establish communication channels with the participants, because if you really want to know what they think about it, they need to have a way to show it to you. You can select various of methods of communication. I think that all of these are well known, so you can use posters, leaflets, information boards. You can use your electronical channels, your website, social medias, or maybe you can have some kind of project ambassadors. So the people who will be at the site, at the spot that you are going to change, and they will have the knowledge and opportunity and skills to speak with the residents. Make sure that you communicate feedback to the people who are willing to work with you in this participatory process, and keep them updated. All these things was mentioned by Alexandra today, that it's very important also to be patient, I think, because to be patient and not to be afraid of failures, because it's normal. The failure is normal. It's not the end of the world. Sometimes you fail once, twice, maybe 3 times, but it's important. It's needed. Every failure can learn you something new about the way that you should operate with your citizens. Maybe the 4th, the 5th time will be better, and every another will be successful. So don't be afraid of it, because you are changing also in this process, and also the other side, your citizens also can change in this process. The process. You need to know the problems or potential problems of the area and all the potential that is in it. You can make before coming to the participation field observations. You can make diagnostic walks, as this was in our case of euPOLIS in Łódź. You can make social diagnosis, surveys, interviews, workshops, just to sell the idea to the citizens that you are going to do this kind of project investment in the city, and you will need their participation in it also. You can have conflict in the area. You don't and you don't be afraid also about it. When it comes to the green interventions and investments, the most probably conflict will be about the trees, because one part of citizens would like to have more trees, a new greenery, and the second part probably will be afraid of the shading, about the maintaining trees in fall when the leaves comes down, or for example they would like to have just parking spots. So it's the most common conflict that you can that can occur. The good idea to resolve it's mediation, but made before the exact participatory planning design. You can also try to do this kind of exercise. So take all the citizens with the opposite opinions and change their roles. So the one with trees, just try to make them imagine how it is in the shoes of the other side. It helps in many times to start working with it, start speaking about the problem, not losing this bomb to react while the process. It's good to have a vision. So you need to go to your citizens with some bullet points, with some general idea. You can't ask them, what would you like to have here? Because then you will get answer everything. Everything. And of course, everything means also opposite ideas that aren't able to be taken into consideration. So you need to tell what you are able to do, how with your budget, so still being honest, what isn't possible to do in this specific area, because you also need to know it, and what is optional, right? When you give it to the citizens, this knowledge, they will be able to give you great ideas in the terms of that what that you are able to do in this investment. Of course, you will need an architect or urban planner during this participatory process, and as long as you are a city, you need to do public procurement to buy all this of this process. So choose architect, choose urban planner who have experience in making this kind of participatory process, because it's also important that he or she needs to know that he or she isn't going there as an expert to say how it should look like, but he also needs to hear the residents, to speak with them, and to take into consideration their ideas. You should also make some kind of verification. After collecting all the remarks from the citizens, it's good to have a discussion what range of it you can take part in your plan, and what is impossible and why. Because they need to just understand what's the real situation. And you need also to try, it's very hard, to reach out these people who aren't coming to the meetings. We know that about 20, maybe 30% of people who are living in the closest neighborhood of the investments are really keen of it and come to every meeting. But there are very also a big amount of people who aren't interested in the stage of planning, but will be criticism after. They will say that A, B, C, they don't like it, but they weren't present when you've wanted to make the project with them. It's good to prototyping, so also showing the possible ways, possible options in which the project can come. So you can have 2 or 3 maximum 3 visions of these solutions, to also give a chance to just pick the one that is the most important or more or the one that neighbors likes the most. And don't expect that all divergent opinion can be reconciled, because it's not possible, because it's not a plebiscite, right? You and avoid voting unless it's a referendum about the kind of solution that is you want to choose. You also need to show the boundaries of the project, because there is some stage of making this project when additional opinions and suggestions can be taken into consideration, because it would make the process never ending. So you also need to have this common ground with your citizens that, okay, we will have 1, 2, 3 workshops on which we will do the final project, but then, okay, then it's end. We have got your opinions and we need to proceed it in terms of the law in the city to have the permission for building, etc., etc. After the process, of course, it's the stage of implementation. You should also try to communicate what will be done. So you can show that taking your remarks, taking your suggestions, your idea after workshops, we have got this kind of the project and we are implementing it. We are keeping you informed. We can show you the drafts, how it will be look like. We can make a walk under the site. We can show what range of your ideas will be realized, how it will be look like. You can have pictures, for example, to illustrate the specific idea propositions. And of course, at the end, you can also invite residents to take part in within green interventions, for example, in planting or making community garden if it's in the scope of the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, at this point, the capacity building event is finished. I'm afraid that we do not have time for questions because we need to leave the room. So thank you all very much, people who are here and people who attend from distance. This is it. Okay.